Welcome into the Commanders Report live show. Sorry for that little black screen there, folks. We're going to be getting into some great Commanders content over the next 90 minutes or so here. We got a bunch of great stuff to talk about on today's show, so we're going to get into our first segment here in about 3 minutes or so. First up today, the latest news and rumors surrounding your Washington Commanders. We'll break down the latest surrounding a potential Brandon Aiyuk trade. Kind of a downturn here in terms of those trade rumors, so we'll break those down here momentarily. Then also, off-season winners for the Washington Commanders. I actually filmed a video for off-season losers earlier this week that's going to come out this weekend. Today, we're going to be doing the winners. Then we'll get into ESPN's 2024 preview for this football team. They're going to break down their this team's biggest weakness, their biggest strength, and X factor. And then they came out with a surprising projected depth chart that I completely disagree with, so make sure you stick around for that. Then we'll get into our live Q&A to finish up today's show. And if you want a question on today's Q&A, all you got to do is go down there into the live chat right now, use hashtag Commanders or Super Chat to get your question on the show. So pretty much what you do is you have a question, you go like hashtag Commanders. Do you think Jaden Daniels or Marcus Mariota will start week 1? And you put that in the live chat. If you use hashtag Commanders, producer Joey is going to be able to see that question and put it on the live show today. So if you have a question and you want to get it on the show, hashtag Commanders along with your question, or if you want to guarantee your spot on the mailbag today, you can super chat any amount. You can put in $2, you can put in $5 with your question, and we will make sure that your question gets on the mailbag today. And with that, let's bring in our producer today, Mr. Joey Peterson. How are we doing today, Mr. Joey?
A little hot, but we're doing well.
Little hot. It is very hot here in Dallas, Texas, unfortunately. Joey, are you a Cowboys fan?
I am a Cowboys
fan. Joey's another fraudulent Cowboys fan here on the Commanders Report. So I'll tell you guys what, every $5 we make in Super Chats or Venmos today, we got these Bean-Boozled jelly beans. We're going to make the Cowboys fans suffer a little bit, all right? If you guys don't know, these Bean-Boozled jelly beans, they are the disgusting jelly beans here from Jelly Belly with flavors like stinky socks, barf, dirty dishwater, dead fish, old bandage.
Awful.
These things are freaking terrible, man. So Joey is another fraudulent Cowboys fan. Unfortunately, I have to deal with a lot of these guys here in Dallas, Texas. But you know what? If they come on the Commanders Report, they got to suffer a little bit here. So every $5 that we get, it's going to be a Bean-Boozled jelly bean for Mr. Joey today. Any Super Chat, you're going to get your question on the show. We'll give you guys some love. $20, Joey has to eat 2 beans at this. Actually, $10, not $20 there, Joey. Every $10, 2 beans for Mr. Joey Peterson, all right? Then $20, you get your name on the F the Cowboys hat. Names are starting to fill up a little bit here, but if you put in a $20 Super Chat or Venmo, we'll make sure your name gets on the F the Cowboys hat. Now, we really do appreciate Venmos, guys, instead of Super Chats, because when you Super Chat, YouTube takes 30% of that money and with a cut because we were using their platform. But if you send it to my Venmo, then we get to use more of that money to give you guys free Commanders content here on YouTube every single day. You can find me at Jack Sperry. And I'll tell you what, man, $5, every $5 that is spent today, Joey's going to have to be doing 1 Bean-Boozled jelly bean. So let's get it going. Right now, let's get this party started. You can scan the QR code or you can send it to Jack-Sperry. So before we get into our first segment today, type me in the chat if you have liked the stream, because liking the stream is the easiest way to help us out, guys. It tells the YouTube algorithm that you want more of this content, that more Commanders fans out there would like our content, and they're going to recommend our content to all other Commanders fans out there. So I see a group of people here. We got 71 people watching live around the world. We got Keek Ruiz, we got Doug Furr, we got Jasmine Gray. What's up, Jasmine? Good to see you. We got Adrian Dockett, we got Darius Hogan, we got TB. We got Cassie Voth, my girlfriend, in the chat. So type me in the chat if you have clicked that thumbs up icon. We got 10 people that have liked the show. I want to get that up to 20. We got 74 people watching. There's no reason why we can't get up to 20 likes to start today's show. Spam those me's in the chat for a shout out right now to kick off today's show. So we got Keek Ruiz in there, Billy Everett's here, Jasmine Gray is here, Doug Furr is here, Commanders Report by Chat Sports. That's Joey getting in there with his me. Keith Payne is here, Ryan Hughes is here. We're at 14 likes right now, guys. There we go. We got the 22. Let's get into our first first segment right now, folks. I won't let you guys wait any longer. We're going to get into the latest news and rumors surrounding the Washington Commanders. Then we'll get into the offseason winners segment. Then an ESPN 2024 preview that you can only get on ESPN Plus. Today we're going to be revealing that for free here on YouTube, and then we have the live Q&A. Don't forget to go #Commanders along with your question down there in the chat to get on this week's mailbag. With that, producer Joey, ready to get things going? All right, let's get it going right now. Latest news and rumors surrounding the Washington Commanders. Today on the Commanders Report, there's a new report out there that puts the Aiyuk trade rumors on ice here. Are the Aiyuk trade rumors officially dead for the Washington Commanders? We're going to answer that question on today's edition of the Commanders Report. Then we'll get into a crazy Commanders trade idea that would send Terry McLaurin outside of the Commanders organization. I think it's pretty crazy. I'll let you guys know my thoughts here in the middle of today's show. Then make sure you guys stick around because we have a brand new potential wide receiver target for the Commanders to consider adding to this team before the start of training camp. But before we get things going here, we are in the middle of a sub-battle right now, a subscriber battle with the Cowboys Report, our sister company here at Chat Sports that covers the Cowboys. Right now, the Cowboys Report has added 462 subscribers this month, and then the Commanders Report, we're just trailing them right now at 448 new subs this month. So make sure you click that subscribe button right now to help us beat the Cowboys Report here for the month of June. And I have some personal stakes in this, guys, because Tom Downey here, our Cowboys Report host, and I have a bet going on this month. And I said, I think the Commanders Report can beat the Cowboys Report. He said that there's no way. He took me up on this bet at the beginning of the month, and this is what he had to say when he accepted. I'll take that bet any day of the week. Commanders fans don't even fill their own stadium on game days. How are they going to beat the Cowboys fans in a sub battle? This will be the easiest $20 I'll ever make. You're on, Sperry. And then we shook on it. And right now, the Cowboys Report does have a slight lead. So subscribe right now if you haven't already to help me win this bet. New viewers out there, I am relying on you guys. I don't want to give Tom Downey my hard-earned money. I want him to be tossing over that $20 bill. So make sure you click that subscribe button right now and try us out for a week so we can beat the Cowboys Report today. Now let's get into the latest surrounding Brandon Aiyuk. We've been covering the Aiyuk stuff for quite a bit on the show here over the last week or so since things have been starting to rumble up again with him. But Tom Pelissero from NFL Network has reported that Aiyuk had a really good meeting with the San Francisco 49ers earlier this week, and this is what he had to say. Aiyuk and the 49ers brass met on Monday at Aiyuk's request. This was a good meeting from what I was told. Both sides said things that needed to be said, and they're going to keep working. It's important to note here, there's never been a trade request from Brandon Aiyuk. That hasn't changed. The 49ers stance hasn't changed either. Despite getting trade calls on Aiyuk going back to draft week, they're moving forward, and they want Aiyuk to be a part of the team in 2024. And it definitely looks like to me that Brandon Aiyuk is going to be staying in San Francisco. It seems like this meeting ended up well, and obviously they don't have a new extension done or anything like that, and I'm not even convinced that a new deal will even happen this offseason. But what I do know is that the 49ers are trying to win Super Bowls right now, and if they trade away an all-pro receiver that was their number one receiving threat last year, that's going to significantly decrease their chances of hoisting the Lombardi Trophy this year, and I think that's a non-negotiable for that football team. And I think Aiyuk will be wearing 49ers colors come week one. Now, guys, when it comes to the Commanders here, I don't necessarily think Washington needs to go out and get him. I've said this on the show a number of times. I think the wide receiver room is actually pretty decent for the Washington Commanders right now. You got Terry McLaurin, who is a bona fide number one receiver. It's not like Brandon Aiyuk could be giving you something that you don't already have. McLaurin is absolutely fantastic, and I'm hoping he really gets the respect he deserves with a guy like Jaden Daniels throwing him the rock this year. Jahan Dotson was a former first-round pick. He's got a lot of talent. De'Ami Brown had a great connection with Jaden Daniels during OTAs, and of course you just got Luke McCaffrey, who you're hoping could really bud into a nice wide receiver piece for Jaden Daniels moving forward in this offense. So it's not like wide receiver is a huge need. Plus, you'd have to pay Brandon Aiyuk $30+ million per season. So I'm not too strung up about the Commanders not being able to trade for Brandon Aiyuk. But let me know down there in the comments section. Will Brandon Aiyuk be a 49er this year? Give me a yes or give me a no for today's pinned comment. YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. And when that happens, take advantage of that time by giving me a yes or no to today's pinned question. Now let's get into the really crazy trade idea here where Parker Abate from Steelers Now floats the idea that Washington could trade Terry McLaurin to the Pittsburgh Steelers. All right, now that sounds crazy to me. It probably sounds crazy to you, but it is worth noting here that the catch in this scenario is that he's saying that it would only be a possibility if Brandon Aiyuk was traded to the Washington Commanders, and we just talked about how that in and of itself is probably unlikely, but this is what Parker from Steelers Now had to say about this possibility. A name that could get lost in dialogue if the Commanders do make a move for Aiyuk is veteran Terry McLaurin. An addition of Brandon Aiyuk could lead to an attractive duo between he and Jahan Dotson. Teams have not been shy in recent years when moving on from veteran players. So what if McLaurin ends up being expendable? Well, here's the thing, man. Terry McLaurin is not expendable. I don't even care if you trade for Brandon Aiyuk. A guy as good as Terry McLaurin is never expendable on your football team, okay? So let's get that clear right off the bat. But I also think that Parker gets a lot of things wrong in his reasoning here when it comes to why the Steelers could potentially acquire Terry McLaurin, even if they traded for Aiyuk. The first problem here is that, like we just said, Aiyuk looks like he's not getting traded. It looks like he's going to remain with the 49ers for at least the 2024 season, whether he gets a new contract or not. Certainly seems like San Francisco is pretty bullish on having him in their locker room this year. And then another reason why I think that he's wrong here is that Dotson might be a part of an Aiyuk trade. If something ends up happening, say things devolve and things spiral, and Brandon demands a trade and then something happens where he gets traded to the Commanders, I would think that the 49ers would want a talented receiver like Jahan Dotson to be a part of the deal, so they're not losing out on too much talent at that position. So he says, yeah, it would be a great combination, Aiyuk first with Dotson on the other side. I think Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson is a perfectly good combo, and if this trade happens, I think Brandon Aiyuk and Terry McLaurin is an even better combination, right? So then the final reason why I think that this is a silly idea is that the Commanders wouldn't trade Terry McLaurin even if they traded for Brandon Aiyuk. I think one of the big reasonings why they would like this trade idea, and the reason why many Commanders fans have floated this idea out there, is to combine the talents of Terry McLaurin and Brandon Aiyuk to make one of the best wide receiver duos in football. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to trade away a really valuable asset like Terry McLaurin just after getting Brandon Aiyuk. Now, coming up here on the Commanders Report, a brand new wide receiver target to unveil here on the Commanders Report. We have not talked about this receiver on the channel so far this offseason. We'll be talking about him here in just a second. But before I reveal who this wide receiver is, go ahead and check out our friends at Fanatics and get an awesome and affordable Washington Commanders ball cap to rock the Dan Quinn backwards hat look on Commanders game days this year. We know that Dan Quinn rocks that backwards hat better than anybody else in the sport of football today. Don't know if he's going to be wearing the backwards hat with now that he's in the head coaching chair again. But if you want to be rocking that backwards hat look on Commanders game days this year, I know I will be on our watch parties this year. Go to chatsports.com/DQ and get an awesome Commanders ball cap with that Commanders logo on it today. All right, now let's get into this mysterious wide receiver target, and it's Juju Smith-Schuster. Now, you might be saying to yourselves, Jack, Juju isn't a free agent. He is on the New England Patriots right now, and you'd be absolutely correct about that. But here's the thing, man. Juju is most likely going to get cut by the Patriots at some point during this offseason. If he makes it to training camp, he is expected to be cut by the end of the preseason. And listen, man, he's only 27 years old. It's not like he's an old man right now. He's had some injury concerns, but he's a bigger guy, 6'1", 216 pounds. He's kind of known as like a bruising, run-blocking type of slot receiver. And I think that he would bring a skill set that really isn't well represented in the Commanders wide receiver room right now. The tallest guy I think that you have in the room is Luke McCaffrey. And then other than that, it's like Terry McLaurin, who's 6 foot. So you don't have a lot of guys with this kind of size and this kind of strength and this kind of run blocking ability. So if Cliff Kingsbury, the offensive coordinator, wants somebody to come in here and be a true run-blocking type guy that can still catch passes from the slot, I think that Juju would be a nice addition. But here's the thing, man. I don't think he's going to want to become a Washington Commander. Like we just said earlier, this wide receiver room is actually pretty good right now. So I don't think Washington really feels like they would want to bring in somebody like a Juju who has had a lot of injuries. And then from Juju's perspective, I'm not sure if the Commanders would be his first choice. There's other teams out there that might benefit a little bit more from bringing him in, and he might play more on other teams. So I'm not sure if it's a great fit between Juju Smith-Schuster and the Washington Commanders, but because his name's been kind of on the chopping block there in New England, I've seen some people in the Commanders space say, hey, maybe we can bring Juju to the nation's capital. I disagree, but let me know down there in the comments section. Would you bring Juju in on a cheap contract? Type F or type S if you would sign him, or type P if you would pass on him. That'll be it for today's news and rumors segment here on the Commanders Report. Make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already for more Commanders news and rumors coverage all throughout the 2024 offseason. First segment out of the way here, producer Joey. Just a reminder here, if you want to get a question on today's Commanders Report live Q&A, all you got to do is put your question along with hashtag Commanders down there in the live chat. So, for example, hashtag Commanders. How many games will the Commanders win this year? You just put that down there in the live chat. Joey's going to find it for us, and he's going to put it on the mailbag here. Remember, the mailbag comes at the end of the show, so you guys still have plenty of time, but just a little bit of a reminder there. So coming up next year, off-season winners for the Washington Commanders. There's been, if you guys are familiar with Rigo's Row from Fansided, it's their Washington Commanders dedicated page there. They had a list of 4 winners and 4 losers. We're going to be doing the off-season losers video. It's going to be coming out this weekend. I'm going to be doing my reaction to their list of off-season winners right now. I want to give some shout-outs here to the people that are still watching. We got 110 people watching live around the world. So big shout-out to Doug Furr, shout-out to Billy, shout-out to Elvis, shout-out to Thomas, shout-out to JG, shout-out to Jasmine, shout-out to Merle, shout-out to Richard, shout-out to Grizzly Kong, shout-out to X-Bad, shout-out to Young Prodigy, shout out to Thomas McKnight. Shout out to Sheldon. Got a bunch of great Commanders fans down there in the chat, man. And by the way, if I didn't mention, in case you guys didn't hear it, every $5 that we get in Super Chats or Venmos today is going to be Bean-Boozled jelly beans for the Cowboys fan producer, Joey Peterson. So make sure you guys get those Super Chats and Venmos in. Again, you can Super Chat down there in the live chat by clicking that money sign, putting in a dollar amount and sending it in, or you can send a Venmo to @Jack-Sperry on Venmo. Appreciate all of your guys' support. Without further ado, let's get into our next segment here, which is the offseason winners for the Washington Commanders. Welcome into the Commanders Report. I am your host, Jack Sperry, and today on the show, I'm going to be reacting to 4 Commanders players that were listed as quote-unquote off-season winners by Fansided. Can't wait to break it down with you guys and give you my reaction to the winners and losers, or just the winners today. Speaking of the losers, we actually have a video up on the channel talking about the offseason losers from this very website here, Fansided. So if you want to see my reaction to their list of 4 offseason losers for the Commanders, I'm going to put the link to that in the comments and description. And make sure you click that subscribe button to never miss any of our videos. We put up videos just about every single day for free on the Washington Commanders. So if you want to become an expert on this football team and never miss a big story, make sure you click that subscribe button right now and join our family. Okay, now let's get into the first winner on Fansided's list of off-season winners, and it's none other than rookie slot cornerback Mikey Sainristil out of the University of Michigan. He's a national champion. He was a team captain for them last year, and he's been impressive during OTAs to this point. This is what Rigo's Rag from Fansided had to say about the rookie corner. Sainristil got some glowing references once the pick became official. Former Alabama head coach Nick Saban called him the best pound-for-pound player in this year's draft. High praise from a football legend right there. Looking at how the cornerback applied himself over early workouts, it's not hard to see why. His fierce determination, instincts, and ball skills came over frequently according to those in attendance. It's only early days, but the Commanders feel like they might have something special on their hands with the ex-Michigan team captain. And listen, man, I've been saying it, since before the draft when we've been doing our pre-draft coverage here at Chat Sports. I've said for a long time, before he even became a Commander, this kid is going to be a special player. Reminds me a lot of Brian Branch when he was coming out with the Alabama product that came out 2 years ago. Went to the Detroit Lions, absolutely was fantastic in his rookie season with the Detroit Lions. And Sainristil's an even more gifted athlete than Branch is, all right? So they both play the game with extremely great instincts and a fierce intensity and great discipline. I think Mikey Sainristil is going to be one of the best slot corners in the league right away. And honestly, you can make an argument right now he is the best overall corner on the Commanders roster. Now let me know down there in the comments section, will Mike Sainristil be Washington's best rookie this year? I'm not talking about the most impactful necessarily, but the best overall at his given position. Let me know down there in the comments section for today's pinned comment. Will Mike Sainristil be Washington's rookie or best rookie this season? Number 2 winner from Fansided is Joe Witt Jr., the defensive coordinator. Couldn't agree with this one more. I'll give my thoughts here in just a second, but this is what Rigo's Rag had to say about the new DC here in Washington. It's hard not to be impressed by the way Witt goes about his business. He's a no-nonsense individual who has high demands for himself and his players. What you see is what you get with him, which instantly earns respect. Witt deserves all the credit in the world for establishing cohesion early. This was a defensive unit on its knees last season. Expect the urgency to increase exponentially with Washington's new coordinator leading the charge. So here's the deal, man. I think that Joe Witt Jr. is going to be a future head coach in this league. Just listening to this guy talk, he reminds me a little bit of Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin, where he's super no-nonsense. He's right to the point. You can tell that he's very process and detail-oriented, and he's worried about the right things, right? He's not worried about what other people have to say about him or his defense or his team, and he likes to keep that competitive edge, man, and that's something that I really love. I think that NFL players, it's shown with his work there with the Dallas Cowboys and the cornerbacks that he's worked with in the past. I mean, I think that the track record speaks for itself. The players respond to him extremely well, and I think that, within a year or two, I think Joe Witt Jr. is going to be one of the top head coaching candidates in the National Football League. Now, coming up here, 2 more winners from Rigo's Rags Fansided article here on the offseason winners for this football team. But before we get into a couple more winners here, we actually have I think if we have a Fanatics one here. Oh, no, we don't. No, never mind. We got winner number 3 here, which is Frankie Louvu, the linebacker, newly signed, formerly with the Carolina Panthers, which is a lot of good stuff here that we've heard from him in OTAs. This is what Rigo's Rag had to say about number 4 in Burgundy. After turning down an extension with the Carolina Panthers to join the Commanders, the explosive force caught the eye in no uncertain terms over early workouts. Joe Witt Jr. was gushing in his praise of Louvu, claiming he's everything one looks for in an inspirational performer and leader. So I've been saying this for a while. I said it when they signed Frankie Louvu. I think he's one of the most underrated defensive players in the entire National Football League. He's one of the best blitzing linebackers in football. He's pretty good in coverage as well. I think that he's a perfect fit for what Joe Witt Jr. and Dan Quinn are going to want to do on the defensive side of the ball this year. And he just plays, with his head on fire, man. He just runs all over the place. He's got great athleticism, great quickness off the snap, and I think he's going to be absolutely fantastic here in the middle of the Commanders' defense this year. Make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon if you are a real one. The real ones know that clicking that thumbs up icon is the easiest way to help out our channel. It tells the YouTube algorithm that you're enjoying our content and that they should push our videos out to other Commanders fans like yourselves. It really does help us grow here. So guys, if you have a second, make sure you click that thumbs up icon and help us out. Then we get to our final winner here on today's segment. Jayden Daniels, the quarterback, 2nd overall pick, Heisman Trophy winner last year at LSU. And, of course, we've been talking about it here on the channel. He has been super impressive, probably more impressive than any other rookie quarterback through the organized team activities period of the offseason. This is what Rigo's Rag had to say about the rookie QB. All eyes were on Jayden Daniels heading into his first offseason. The Washington Commanders and its long-suffering fan base, boy do we know that, were eagerly awaiting what the quarterback could bring to the table. It's just the start of his NFL journey, but the early signs are incredibly positive. Daniels looks and carries himself like a franchise quarterback, the number 2 overall selection in the 2024 NFL Draft, won over coaches and teammates with outstanding on-field production and exceptional work ethic over initial offseason workouts. And guys, things are definitely looking up for not only the Commanders' offense and at the quarterback position, but the team as a whole. Because I think that Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr., they're going to allow this Commanders defense to kind of punch above its weight. Defense isn't going to be the issue this year. It's going to be Cliff Kingsbury, Jaden Daniels, this offensive line. Can they figure it out enough to give this team some balance? If Jaden Daniels thrives in year one and he puts himself in consideration to be Rookie of the Year on the offensive side of the ball this year, that's going to really put the Commanders in position to potentially make a playoff push towards the end of the season. Now sound off for me down there in the comments section. What is the percent chance that Jaden Daniels wins Offensive Rookie of the Year this season? Put it on a scale of 0 to 100 for me. 0 meaning 0%, no chance he wins it, to 100% meaning I'm 100% confident he is going to win it this season. Let me know what you're thinking down there in the comments. For me, I'm going to go about 30%. There's a lot of really good offensive players that are coming into the league. Malik Neighbors, Roma Dunze, Caleb Williams going to Chicago. There's a lot of great players, but, Jaden Daniels really kind of rose to the top in terms of rookie talent during OTAs. Now, we're not going to know what Jaden has until we put on the pads and all these different things, but I have a really good feeling about this kid, and I think he's going to have a pretty darn successful rookie season. It's going to be kind of hard playing behind the offensive line the Commanders have right now, and I think that might limit his overall odds here, but 30% I think is perfectly fair, and I definitely think it's a possibility. We're talking about Jaden Daniels as the Offensive Rookie of the Year when the season wraps up. All right, guys, make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Thanks for making it to the end of today's segment. Make sure you click that subscribe button right now for more Commanders news and rumors content for free here on YouTube every single day. All right, second segment out of the way here, Mr. Joey. Just a reminder here, hashtag Commanders to get your question in for the mailbag. It's going to be coming up in 2 more segments here. So you still got some time, but time's running out. So if you got a question for me, you want to tell me I'm stupid, you want to tell me, I'm a complete idiot, or you want to, say that you appreciate the show, whatever the case may be, get it down there. Hashtag Commanders. Joey will see it. Or you can super chat. Again, every $5 we make in super chat revenue today, Joey's got to eat a Bean-Boozled jelly bean. So if we can get those super chats going, that'd be fantastic, as we get to make the Cowboy fans suffer a little bit here. Coming up here, Joey, we've got another segment. It's going to be ESPN 2024 season preview for the Washington Commanders. They talk about this team's biggest strength from their perspective, biggest weakness, what they feel is the X factor for this team. And then also, they come out with a projected starting lineup, which I actually have some pretty significant disagreements with here in terms of how the lineup is going to look week 1. So I'll get into that here in just a second. I just want to give some shout-outs to all the people watching live, man. We got MG down there. We got Doug Furr. We got Thomas McKnight. We got Billy Everett Jr. We got Jasmine. We got Richard. We got Freddie. We've got Paul. We've got Jasmine again. We got a bunch of great people. We got John Lucas in there. Got a bunch of great Commanders fans watching live with us here. So make sure you guys get those questions in. Get those super chats if you want Joey to eat those beans. You got something, Joey?
Yeah, let me just remind all you guys. I see a lot of @Commanders in the chat. They won't be able to get into the show unless you use the hashtag Commanders. So @Commanders doesn't do it. We see it, we can still answer it, but if you want to make sure you get your question in the mailbag, most likely use that hashtag Commanders.
Hashtag Commanders. Absolutely. Good point there, Joey. Make sure you guys use hashtag Commanders if you want that question on today's show. Joey, you ready to get things going here with our next segment? Let's get into it right now. ESPN 2024 season preview for your Washington Commanders. Today on the Commanders Report, we've got a 2024 season preview put out by ESPN earlier this week, breaking down everything that they think that Commanders fans need to know about this season and this team heading into the year. The topics that will be discussed on today's video and in this article: the biggest strength for the Washington Commanders, their biggest weakness. Shout out to producer Joey for the awesome graphics there. The X factor for 2024, and then they have a surprising starting lineup projection here that I completely disagree with. We'll get into that at the end of today's show, so make sure you guys stick around. But here's the deal, guys. ESPN Plus, they make you pay $11 a month to see this content. That's absolutely ridiculous. to us here at the Commanders Report. So we're going to give it to you guys 100% free. All right, we're going to give you this content from ESPN Plus 100% free because that's what we do here on the Commanders Report. We give you guys free premium Commanders coverage every single day. Really do appreciate everybody that's already clicked that subscribe button. And for those of you that are already subscribed, I know that you guys know that we have the best Commanders content for free here on YouTube. So if you haven't clicked that subscribe button yet and you want to join our family, you want to become an expert on this football team, make sure you click that subscribe button right now. So now let's get into what ESPN thinks is this team's biggest strength, which is inside linebacker. We got a nice picture of Bobby Wagner there. Some very interesting stuff here from ESPN's Mike Clay, who had this to say about the Commanders' linebackers. Washington revamped its linebacker situation by adding every down players Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu during free agency. Wagner is entering his age 34 season, but he has shown no sign of drop-off, pacing the NFL with 183 tackles last season. The versatile Louvu is one of the only 2 players with 200-plus tackles and 12-plus sacks in the past 2 years. Former first-round pick Jamin Davis, Mykal Walker, and rookie Jordan McGee add depth. So listen, man, I have no problem with the Washington Commanders linebacking depth. I think that's really good. But is it the biggest strength of this football team? If your biggest strength is your inside linebackers, your team is in big trouble, all right? That's all I'm going to say. But what I'll say is the biggest strength for this football team is actually defensive coaching overall. I'm talking about Dan Quinn, the head coach, who of course has a defensive background, the new defensive coordinator, Joe Witt Jr., who I am a big believer in with their use of multiple fronts, stunts in games, rotating coverages, all this stuff that they did with the Dallas Cowboys over these last several years. They're going to be bringing it here to Washington. And even though, maybe the cornerback situation isn't all that great and maybe the defensive line could still use a couple of pieces, I think that this defense is really going to punch above its weight, and it's going to be at least league average this year, which is going to be a huge step up from where this team was last year under Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio. Now, what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comment section. What will be Washington's biggest strength this year? This will be the pinned comment on today's show. So whenever YouTube throws you an ad break here, it should be in just a couple of seconds. Go down there, find that pinned comment. It's right there at the top of the comment section, and answer today's pinned question. When it comes to the biggest weakness, ESPN thinks it is edge rusher. As we see, I believe that's Dorrance Armstrong right there for the Washington Commanders signing his contract. This is what Mike Clay had to say about the Commanders on the edge. Edge rusher is in transition after the team traded away Montez Sweat and Chase Young last season. Newcomers Dorrance Armstrong, Cleveland Ferrell, and Dante Fowler Jr. topped the depth chart after none cleared 452 snaps in 2023. This unit will require contributions from the versatile Louvu and perhaps Davis, talking about Jamin Davis there. And I think that they fundamentally, or Mike Clay fundamentally doesn't understand what the Commanders are doing with Jamin Davis this year. He's essentially going to be an edge rusher. He's going to be playing kind of that Micah Parsons hybrid linebacker edge rusher role in almost like a 3-4 style of defense. Now, Dan Quinn traditionally runs a 4-3, going back to his days there with the Seattle team, the Legion of Boom. So many people think, including Mike Clay, that he still runs a traditional 4-3. But if you watch any Dallas Cowboy film over the last several seasons, they almost run like a 3-4 style of defense where they have a hybrid linebacker that can go out into coverage or rush the passer. That's going to be Jamin Davis this year. So, I mean, Mike Clay lists Jamin as a part of the inside linebacking core. I disagree with that. I think he's going to be more of like an outside linebacker that rushes the passer more often than not. So I think that he's going to be more of an edge rusher for this team this year, and I think that's a fundamental misunderstanding that Mike Clay is bringing to the table here. My biggest weakness on this team, you guys know it if you've watched the show, it's the offensive line. Just like last year. I mean, last year I was saying, guys, like Chris Paul, and Sadiq Charles is just not going to cut it at left guard. And, I didn't love the tackle situation last year either. And people were like, Jack, you're being too pessimistic. This team's going to be awesome. Sam Howell's going to be incredible. Well, the offensive line was probably the second worst in football last year. Sam Cosmi was great at right guard. It's great that you got him back. Tyler Biadasz is, I think, a very solid center. But the other three spots, like Andrew Wiley gave up 9 sacks last year. Nick Allegretti and Cornelius Lucas have never been full-time starters. That's your entire left side of your offensive line. Neither one of them is an established starter in this league, and they're going to be protecting Jaden Daniels is blindside. So on paper here, this is one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. I hope that at least a couple of these guys raise above expectations. I hope Cornelius Lucas plays better than what his former stats would suggest. I hope Nick Allegretti plays just as well as he did with the Chiefs on their playoff run last year. I hope all these things happen. But on paper, this has got to be one of the worst units in the NFL, and that's not good considering that you have a rookie quarterback back there who is a little bit spindly. Now, I will say Daniels has filled out a little bit here, but you got to really hope that Jaden Daniels can stay healthy behind this offensive line this year. I think it is the Commanders' biggest weakness, or at least it is on paper heading into the year, and I'm really hoping that at least a couple of pieces on this offensive line can prove me wrong so that Jaden Daniels can stay upright next year. Now, still to come here on the Commanders Report, shocking starting lineup projection for ESPN here that I completely disagree with. I'll let you guys know the parts I disagree with here in just a second. But before we get into that, rock the Dan Quinn look during game days this year for the Washington Commanders. And you can do that right now by getting a very affordable, stylish Washington Commanders ball cap from our friends at Fanatics right now. Go to chatsports.com/DQ to get this very stylish Commanders ball cap today. And also, guys, if you want to help out the channel, this is a great opportunity to do so because if you use our link, chatsports.com/DQ, and then you make a purchase, Fanatics is going to send us part of the proceeds. So we really do appreciate your guys' support. So if you want a new ball cap, you want to rock that Dan Quinn look this year, and you want to help out the channel, go to chatsports.com/DQ. All right, now we get to ESPN's X Factor, and they think it's going to be the starting cornerbacks for the Washington Commanders here. This is what Mike Clay from ESPN has to say about the outside cornerback situation here in Washington. Cornerbacks Benjamin St-Juste and Emmanuel Forbes Jr. last season, no outside corner surrendered more yards to opponents than St-Juste per NFL Next Gen Stats. And Forbes allowed 2.4 yards per coverage snap, the second most by an outside corner with at least 250 coverage snaps. So listen, man, neither of these guys have been particularly great last season. Now it's a different scheme. It's going to be a much different mentality. Maybe, Joe Witt Jr. and Dan Quinn, who have a history of turning around some of these cornerbacks in the past. I mean, Deron Bland, Trayvon Diggs didn't have the best starts to their career. They revived Stephon Gilmore's career last year. They've done a really good job with these outside cornerbacks in the past. You've got to hope that they can do the same with Emmanuel Forbes and Benjamin St-Juste this year, but it's definitely a question mark heading into the season. My X factor here, I think it's going to be Jaden Daniels, guys, because I think if Jaden Daniels has a Rookie of the Year type season and he comes anywhere close to the production that C.J. Stroud put out last year, I think the defense will be good enough where this will be a pretty balanced football team. Now, because he's playing behind a bad offensive line, it's going to be, it's definitely, we still have to see Jaden Daniels, play well in an actual NFL football game. But everything that we've seen from Jaden through OTAs tells me that he's an absolute stud. And if he has a Rookie of the Year type campaign, I think that's going to bring some nice balance to this football club. And then when you add the culture that Dan Quinn is bringing here, I think it could be something where you could have an outside chance at a playoff spot here in 2024. Make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon here if you're pumped to watch Jaden Daniels play football in the burgundy and gold. I know I am. We're going to be having watch parties here on YouTube, 100% free, where we're going to have this community come together to watch this rookie quarterback ball out. So if you're ready to watch Jaden Daniels, number 5 in burgundy, rock out this year, make sure you click that thumbs up icon right now. So now I've been alluding to it since the beginning of the show here, this surprising ESPN starting lineup projection. And most of the surprising things in the disagreements I have are on the defensive side of the ball. So let's start with the offense here, where there's not a whole lot of disagreement here. I mean, Jaden Daniels projected to be the Week 1 starter. I agree with that. Brian Robinson Jr. and Austin Eckler will start this season as the first 2 running backs. Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson, definitely going to be number 1 and number 2 receiver. The only disagreement I have, though, is that they have Luke McCaffrey listed as the number 2 or number 3 receiver. I actually think it's going to be De'Ami Brown. There's going to be a competition for that number 3 spot. Olamide Zaccheaus, De'Ami Brown, Luke McCaffrey. There's going to be a lot of guys in contention for that number 3 wide receiver spot. But De'Ami Brown and Jaden Daniels had a really nice connection in OTAs. I have a feeling that's going to translate over into training camp and preseason. And I think by week 1, De'Ami Brown is going to be the number 3 receiver. Then for the big guys on offense, no disagreements from me here, guys. We got Zach Ertz at tight end. Ben Simmons going to be his backup this year, most likely. Cornelius Lucas will start at left tackle. Do think that will be the case. Nick Allegretti at left guard. Tyler Biadasz at center. And then Sam Cosmi at right guard, and then Andrew Wiley at right tackle. I definitely think that's probably the way it will play out in week 1. But where ESPN goes wrong here is I think that Mike Clay's fundamental misunderstanding of how this defense is going to be aligned definitely messes things up here. And I just think from how I think it's going to go, I just don't think it's really lined up with reality. The problem is he kind of lays this thing out as if it's a traditional 4-3 defense when there's nothing really traditional about the way Joe Witt Jr. and Dan Quinn want to run this style of defense. So right now, Mike Clay, this is who he has as the projected starters. Dorrance Armstrong will be the number 1 edge. Cleveland Ferrell will be the second edge. And then you get Jonathan Allen and then Daron Payne as your 2 defensive tackles. Then at linebacker, he has Bobby Wagner as the number 1, Frankie Luvu as the number 2, and then Jamin Davis as the number 3. But like we talked about earlier, Jamin Davis is going to be more of an edge rusher. We'll get into that here in just a second. And then in the secondary, he has Emmanuel Forbes as the number 1, Benjamin St. Juste as the number 2, Quan Martin as the starting slot corner, not Mike Sainristil. And then he's got Derek Forrest at free safety with Jeremy Chin playing the strong safety position. And, 3 guys that I think are probably going to be starters that ESPN's Mike Clay does not list on this depth chart. Mike Sainristil, who I think might be the best overall corner on this team, not listed as a starter. That's ridiculous to me. Johnny Newton, if he's healthy and good to go, he should be getting more snaps than Cleveland Ferrell. He's way more talented than him. And I definitely think Newton is going to get on the field and quickly for this football team. Then Michael Davis, they brought him in free agency. They clearly like him. I'm not the biggest Michael Davis fan in the world, but it's clear that the Commanders believe in this guy and think that they can turn his career around. So listen, man, I don't think this is how the defense is going to look. I think it's going to be a lot more multiple than the way that they're kind of breaking things down. And I think that the defensive line in particular is going to look in a different way than people are kind of expecting. I think they're going to run more of a 3-4 front here, where you're going to have Jamin Davis, who is going to be on the field as a linebacker, but it's going to be more of a hybrid linebacker, somebody that comes across all around the formation. He moves all around. He's blitzing on almost every single play. Yes, he goes out into coverage at times, but he's going to be playing on the line of scrimmage. Dorrance Armstrong and then Johnny Newton, who's kind of an undersized defensive tackle, would be perfect for that 5 technique role, that 3-4 defensive end spot. Then you get Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne, who are great in those 3 technique and 1 technique roles. I think that this configuration works a lot better than that traditional 4-3 that Mike Clay lays out. Then we get to the linebackers. Frankie Luvu, Bobby Wagner will be the more traditional guys. And then in your nickel formations and in your dime packages, Jeremy Chin's going to be rotating down as kind of like a bandit linebacker type. He's a big, strong safety. He's really good in coverage as a linebacker, and Bobby Wagner isn't. So in those situations where it's obvious pass situations, I think Wagner comes off the field and Jeremy Chin comes in for coverage. And then at the cornerback position, Mike Sainristil starting at slot corner, guys. It's not going to be Quan Martin. I'm sorry, it's just not. And I do think Michael Davis probably beats out Benjamin St. Juste. That spot's going to be an interesting battle in training camp, but Emmanuel Forbes probably most likely going to be the number 1 corner for this team to start the year. Then you get Derek Forrest as your free safety, and then Jeremy Chin in your base formations when you only have 2 safeties on the field. Chin will be the strong safety. And then when you have Chin in as kind of a coverage linebacker, that's when Quan Martin will come in to play the other safety position. So listen, man, it's a lot. It's very versatile. It's very multiple. And I think to just pigeonhole this and kind of be so cookie cutter with your 4-3 defense there, I just think it doesn't do this defense justice. So fill in the blank for me down there in the comments section. The Commanders will have a top blank defense in 2024. Will they have top 15, top 10, top 5? Let me know down there in the comments section. How good is this Commanders defense going to be next season? Thank you guys so much for sticking with me here to the end of today's show. I know it was a little bit of a longer one. Make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already for more Commanders news and rumors coverage all throughout the 2024 offseason. All right, producer Joey, we got one more segment, and it is the mailbag. So if you haven't gotten your question in yet, make sure you get your question in now. okay, because we're going to be going into this mailbag. I don't know how many questions we have. Doug Furr says Forbes at cornerback 1 is not a good idea. I don't disagree, Doug, but it's like, who is the better idea at cornerback 1? You know, are you going to put Benjamin St. Juste as your number 1 corner? Michael Davis, who had an off year in LA last year, he's your number 1 guy? Really? I mean, Forbes is the most talented out of those 3. So, like, I don't want Emmanuel Forbes as my number 1 corner, but that's kind of the way things are built with this team right now, which is sad. I wish they would sign Stephon Gilmore because that would completely change things. Emmanuel Forbes is a number 2 guy. Benjamin St. Juste and Michael Davis can be rotational pieces. I like this cornerback room a lot more if you sign Stephon Gilmore, but it's either Adam Peters is shoving his head up his ass and won't do it, or Stephon doesn't want to come play for the Commanders. I don't know which one it is. I hope it's not the Adam Peters one. I hope Stephon is just saying, I don't want to play for a rebuilding team. Because there's really no reason for this team not to want Stephon Gilmore this season. There's just no reason for it. All right, man. Make sure you guys get those questions in. Joey, how many questions? Are we good on questions? We still need some more?
I'm going to give 30 seconds. I'm going to give some shout-outs in the chat. Give everybody 30 more seconds. Get some questions in. And then I think we'll be good.
All right, man. Make sure you guys get your questions in. If you want to tell me I'm an idiot, if you want to tell me good job, if you have a question that you want me to answer, hashtag Commanders along with your question, or you can super chat. We still haven't gotten our first super chat today.
We have not.
Joey's kind of getting off the hook today with the Bean-Boozled.
Thank you so much.
So Joey's very appreciative of that, guys. But if we get every $5 that's sent in is 1 jelly bean for Mr. Joey Peterson. If someone sends in a 50, he has to eat 10 at the same time. Someone sends in a 50, he has to eat 10 of these disgusting jelly beans at the same time.
That is true.
Goodness, man.
Alrighty, I'm going to give 30 seconds, give some shout-outs, and then we'll keep going. Is that cool with you, Sperry?
Cool with me, man.
Alrighty, shout out Dave Robb, shout out Billy Everett Jr., shout out James Carr, shout out Doug Furr, shout out MG, Jamaica Johnson. Sorry if I'm butchering your name. Shout out Jasmine Gray, shout out Richard Barker. Shout out Foreskins621. Shout out Richie Bleed. Shout out Young Prodigy.
We got an interesting one here from Dave Robb. Says, don't sleep on Crowder. I'm not opposed to Crowder being the slot receiver this year, man. If he plays well in camp, I mean, Crowder's been a good starting slot for a long time. Wouldn't be surprised if he comes up here, but based on what I've seen from the OTAs this offseason, De'Ami Brown is kind of in the lead for that number 3 spot. That's just my 2 cents. But I think Crowder will make this team as the punt and kickoff return man. I think he still provides value in that way. And I think that he could get on the field, but also Olamide Zaccheaus is a guy to keep your eye on. There's a nice hodgepodge of good, decent receivers that could be that number 3 receiver this year for this team, Joey. So good point there made by Dave Robb. Make sure you guys get those hashtag Commanders in. I see Foreskin 621 says, anything about DK. If you're talking about DK Metcalf, it's most likely not going to happen. Most of the Seattle beat writers have said that they're not letting go of Metcalf, and I completely agree with that, man. I think Seattle would be idiotic to get rid of DK Metcalf. It's like, out of all the receivers in the NFL for you to replace, I think DK Metcalf is one of the more unique receivers in the league. Like, you're not finding a DK Metcalf in next year's NFL draft.
They don't grow on trees.
They don't grow on trees. Guys that are that big, that strong, and that fast, and that talented, you don't find him every day. And he's only 26. Like, I feel like even if you are trying to rebuild a little bit there in Seattle, like a 26-year-old star receiver is a piece that you want to build around, not get rid of, right? Yeah. So I don't see DK Metcalf getting dealt, unfortunately. I would actually say Brandon Aiyuk is more likely than DK Metcalf, and as we've talked about today, I don't think the Aiyuk stuff is super realistic either. So if you're expecting and you're hoping for a big-name receiver trade this offseason, I wouldn't hold my breath. That's all I'll say. Okay, let's get into the mailbag here. Let's finish up the show and the week with some questions from you guys right here on Commanders Report Live. Welcome into the Commanders Report mailbag. I am your host, Jack Sperry, and today, man, I love these mailbags because I get to hear from you guys and the topics you want me to address. You know, when I'm just at my office here at Chat Sports, I'm trying to think of what you guys might want me to talk about. It can get difficult at times, but with these, it's super transparent. You guys just tell me what you want to talk about, and I love that, and I love the two-way conversation that we get to have on these shows. So before we get into the questions here, make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. We are the most interactive Commanders fan community here on YouTube. We have these mailbags every single week on our live shows, Thursdays starting at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Make sure you guys don't miss those. And then also during the season, we are going to be having watch parties for just about every single Commanders game. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure you guys don't miss it. Make sure you click that subscribe button right now. With that, I'll pause and open it up for questions. We got one from Merle Garrett. What's up, Merle? Says, would Commanders sign Kenny Galladay? I don't think so. Galladay really stinks, man. He really does. I wouldn't want to touch him. I mean, he's a bigger receiver, hands guy. Could be something the Commanders maybe wanted to add to their room. But I would feel like with a guy like Galladay and the way that he's struggled, if the Commanders wanted him, they would have already picked him up. Then we got one from JG. It says, why is there so much focus on acquiring another wide receiver when our need is cornerback and left tackle? Our wide receiver is deep. Yeah, I think that the reason why there is so much focus put on the receiver position, especially lately, is because Brandon Aiyuk is such good friends and has already established chemistry with Jaden Daniels. And people are like, hey, man, if this guy wants to come play for us, maybe we should consider going out and getting Jaden Daniels, his favorite target from his time there at Arizona State. I think that's probably where it comes from. I think that I agree with you here, JG. The wide receiver room is deep. I like the talent that they have here. Lots of young talent that is up and coming. Plus, you got a legit number one in Terry McLaurin. The need is cornerback. I don't know if this team understands that is the need. I think that they like Emmanuel Forbes. I think that they like Benjamin St-Juste. I think that they've seen what they've done with some of the corners there in Dallas, like Trayvon Diggs and Deron Bland and Stephon Gilmore, and they're like, we can fix these guys. But it's like, sometimes, guys just don't have it. So kind of worried that, maybe a little bit of the arrogance from Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. is showing up here with their decisions at corner. And then also left tackle. But here's the thing, though, JG, before I wrap up this question. I'm not counting out that this team adds a corner or a left tackle. If Stephon Gilmore decides to come here, I hope this team will take that opportunity. If David Bakhtiari would come here, I hope this team takes that opportunity. Absolutely, those are priorities, but with the Brandon Aiyuk stuff hitting the presses this week, that's why we focused on it. Then we got one from Applesauce88. It says, what move do you think is the most realistic to happen for the Commanders before the start of camp? Most realistic, signing Donovan Smith, offensive tackle in free agency. I think that's probably the most realistic. Smith is a two-time champion as a starting left tackle. That's a clear and obvious need for this football team. Smith is looking for a bounce-back year. And if Smith stinks, you sign him to you sign him to a team-friendly deal. If he stinks, you go with Cornelius Lucas or Brandon Coleman, and you're right back to where you are anyway. So put him on a one-year deal, see what he can do. I think that if the Commanders are going to make any move, that one seems the most doable for this team. Now let me know down there in the comments section, what move, if any, do you think Washington will make before the start of training camp? Do you think they make a trade for somebody? Do you think they sign someone in free agency? Do they extend somebody? Sam Cosmi, cough. Let me know down there in the comments section, who do you think what do you think the Commanders will do before the start of camp? All right, now, we got one from Doug Furr. What's up, Doug? Says, can we get updates on Bakhtiari, Williams, Gilmore, Price to get them here? Honestly, man, with these guys, it might not be Price. It might just be they don't want to play for a rebuilding team like the Commanders. And, if that's the case, I mean, Bakhtiari, obviously, his career's starting to come to a close here. He's been in the league forever. Gilmore, kind of the same way. I wouldn't necessarily blame those guys if they want to go play for an immediate contender. I'm not sure if it's necessarily a thing on Price. The Commanders have a lot of money to spend. So, if they just don't want to come here, they don't want to come here, and that's just kind of the way it works. Then we go on from It's Torched. It says, hey, Jack, do you think we have a double-digit sack guy this year? I think there's a lot of guys that could do it. I don't think Dorrance Armstrong quite gets there, but I could see Jonathan Allen getting there. I could see Jamin Davis getting there. And this one might surprise you a little bit. I could see Frankie Louvu doing it as well. I would say the most likely are Jonathan Allen and Jamin Davis. Louvu would be a little bit of a surprise, but Luvu's a really good blitzer, man. So I really do think that this is going to be a good pass rush. I think there's going to be opportunities for a lot of different guys to eat. But I think the people that'll get fed the most, so to speak, are Jonathan Allen and Jamin Davis. Moving on from Young Prodigy, it says, will our running back lineup be strong enough? I don't know, man. I like Brian Robinson Jr. He's solid. Austin Eckler, I'm worried about him a bit. I think there's a pretty good possibility he just ends up just not being anything and he just stinks. Last year, he was not himself. I'll just put it that way. He lost a step speed-wise, and another year. Is it possible that Eckler is completely cooked? Yes, it's possible. But in that case, you got Chris Rodriguez Jr., who I thought showed some nice flashes last year. So I think the running back room is fine. I think that they're going to really be relying on Jaden Daniels in the passing game this year for offensive production more than the run game. It's just Cliff Kingsbury's style. So I think the running backs are good enough. Then we go on from Minnesota Hater. Says, I've heard you say that the Commanders' defense won't be a 4-3 this year, but doesn't Dan Quinn traditionally run a 4-3 going all the way back to his Seattle days? So yeah, what he did back there in Seattle with the Legion of Boom, it was that 4-3 under front that they ran, and they had a lot of success. That defense was perfectly built to run that style of defense. And then Quinn ran that style of defense in Atlanta, saw some success with it, but it completely crumbled by the time his time was done there in Atlanta, and then he went to Dallas and completely changed his philosophy. When he had Micah Parsons, he pretty much turned him into a hybrid linebacker edge rusher. He moved him all over the formation, and he's done a lot of really innovative stuff that looks completely different from what he did in his Seattle days, where in Seattle they would kind of just run their defense, and it would be like the same 4 plays on repeat. Here with the Dallas Cowboys and what he's going to be bringing here to Washington, it's a lot of people at the line of scrimmage. It's a lot of creeper blitzes. It's a lot of multiple fronts. It's putting guys in different places. It's stunts and games and shifting formations. And it's a lot of creative, innovative stuff that you have to have in the modern NFL to survive. So Dan Quinn is not the same defensive mind than he was back when he was there with the Seattle Seahawks. And I think a lot of people still kind of think, oh, he's a 4-3 under guy because he was there in Seattle. But if you watch the film, it's a completely different defense from what he used to run there at the Legion of Boom. Now, true or false? Let me know down there in the comments section. The Commanders will have a top 10 defense this year. Type true or false. Do you think it's top 10 this year? Let me know down there in the comments section. Then we got one from my girlfriend here, Cassie Voth. Show some love to Cassie in the chat here, folks. It says, what teams have the best chances for the Super Bowl this year? There's a lot of good teams in the league this year. I would say Kansas City, of course. The Houston Texans are gonna be dangerous this year, it seems like. San Francisco will certainly be there. Baltimore will be there. Cincinnati could be there. Pittsburgh, if Russell Wilson turns his career around, could be there. There's a lot of different teams that have a chance to win a Super Bowl this year. It's just going to come down to which teams execute the best, who stays healthy. But there's definitely a hodgepodge of teams out there that are capable of winning the Super Bowl. Make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon if you haven't already. If you are a real one, the real ones know that clicking that thumbs up icon every single show is the easiest way to help out our channel and be an active member in our community. It tells the YouTube algorithm that you enjoy our content and that other Commanders fans would like our content too, so they push it and recommend it to other Commanders fans like yourself. So if you love the Commanders, you love our channel, you want to help us out, make sure you click that thumbs up icon right now. Going from Tony FOMO. Says, will Johnny Newton be a week 1 starter, or will his absence from OTAs put him behind heading into the season? I think it's going to put him behind a little bit heading into training camp, and I think his performance in training camp practices and in the preseason games is going to determine his snap count, so to speak, or how much he plays in week 1. Cleveland Ferrell is kind of a bigger 5 technique type defensive end type. So you have somebody that can play that role in case Newton isn't ready for a starting role. But I think Johnny Newton, man, is kind of an undersized defensive tackle who they're trying to make into almost like a 3-4 defensive end, playing 5 technique. I think that's something that fits his skill set beautifully. And it could create maybe the best pass rushing trio on the interior in the National Football League in Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, and then Johnny Newton. That is so dangerous if you get those 3 guys working. So I think Newton eventually will be a starter. Week 1, it's going to depend on his performance in the preseason. So what say you guys? So let me know down there in the comment section. Will Johnny Newton be a Week 1 starter this season? Simply give me a yes or no what you guys think down there in the comment section. Okay, man. We got a question here from JG. It says, what is a realistic expectation for when Bakhtiari will actually be ready to play in 2024? He claims that he's going to be ready Week 1. That's what he claims. Is he telling the truth? I don't know. But apparently he got a doctor to clear him and it made a big deal about it. So Bakhtiari should be able to go Week 1 if the Commanders end up signing him. I hope that Bakhtiari is open to the possibility of coming here because he would be amazing. He'd be like, I mean, he's one of the top 10, maybe top 5 best pass protecting tackles in football on a team that's going to be passing the football a lot this year. That would be such a big signing if the Commanders can get him on their team. Unfortunately, I think at this point, if he wanted to go to the Commanders, he'd already be here. Now, make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. I really do appreciate all the people that put in questions today. If you want to get a question on a future Commanders Report mailbag, we have live shows every single Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you want to get a question on a future mailbag, make sure you join us then. All right. All of our segments are out of the way. We're going to put on a 2-minute shot clock here before we say goodbye. 2 minutes to get your Super Chats in. If you want to get a Super Chat or a Venmo in there to make Joey eat a Bean-Boozled jelly bean, we always appreciate it. By the way, it's not $20 for 2 beans. It's $10, just so you guys know. F Joey in the chat. All right, so we got some people in the chat. We got MG, says Dan Quinn defense at Dallas got destroyed by Green Bay. Yes, it did. Absolutely, but that doesn't mean that it was a bad defense by any stretch of the imagination. No. I mean, if you're basing how good a defense is based on one game, and by the way, Jordan Love played out of his freaking mind. His mind.
I think we need to look back to like the 3 years ago Cowboys defense with Mike Nolan when they were last statistically in like every category.
Yeah, and Quinn comes in year 1 and they're like a top 5 defense.
Exactly.
The Commanders defense, if they get Stephon Gilmore, I think they would make that similar type of transformation.
I agree.
At this point, I don't think they're getting Gilmore. Unfortunately, I think that if they would have gotten Gilmore, they would have already gotten him. I think the outside cornerback situation might hold this defense back a little bit. But once they get the cornerback situation figured out, and Johnny Newton gets into his second year in the league, Jamin Davis gets used to playing that hybrid outside linebacker role. I mean, 2 years from now, the 2025 season has a chance to be a really special year for the Commanders defense in the second year. I think this next year is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to see a lot of creative things done by Joe Witt Jr. and Dan Quinn. I'm on record here saying that I think this Commanders team is going to need another year to get to legit competitiveness. If Jaden Daniels has an out-of-his-mind year, maybe they sneak into the playoffs, but I don't think anybody's expecting the Commanders to compete for a Super Bowl this year. And that's just me being honest. Oh my God! With 5 seconds on the clock, IQ Barbecue with a $50 Super Chat. Everybody give it up for IQ in the chat.
Wow.
All right, Joey, here's your Bean-Boozled. You got to eat 10 at the same time again.
Jeez Louise.
10 Bean-Boozled jelly beans. By the way, as long as Joey takes to eat these, it's still open. Every $5 spent is 1 jelly bean. So because IQ put in 50, Joey has to eat 10 jelly beans at the same time.
Okay.
So let's get this going. Spam IQ in the chat.
Here's my 10. Just like give me some trust on that.
Is that 10? Oh, yeah, it sounds like 10. Oh, it's bad. Oh.
I'm trying not to breathe.
Look at him. He's struggling over there. Joey knows the rules, though. No spitting, man. Oh, my gosh. MG says Joey's going to puke. He might, man. It looks like that's... Oh, that is so freaking disgusting. I can't even describe it. Oh. Dan says, Joey about to have a sugar high. There we go. We got it done. Everyone give it up for Joey in the chat.
Thank you, IQ Barbecue.
Big shout out to IQ Barbecue for sending in that 50. So, Joey, can you describe to us how that tasted?
It tastes like trash juice smells. That's how it tastes. You know when, like, you got a lot of trash bags, there's that water at the bottom of it?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It tastes how that smells.
It's so bad.
Yeah. That's all I got.
All right, Joey's a good sport here, folks. Okay. So IQ Barbecue says, any truth to another report that we didn't spend the majority of our cap space due to the price paid for the team and stadium upgrades? I don't think... It's an interesting point there, IQ. I wouldn't count it out. I mean, Adam Peters had to spend a lot of money just to get this football team. Looks like he's going to have to spend a lot of money to get a stadium built. I don't know, man. Maybe. I'll say maybe. I can't confirm or deny any of those, but that's definitely interesting. MG says Dan Snyder ruined our team. That's something I can definitely agree with, man. Dan Snyder fucking stinks.
Hey,
Hate that guy, man.
Worst sports owner in the history of sports?
Steve Ballmer. Wait, what was his name? No, the
old. Are you talking about the Bulls guy?
No, the old Clippers owner that was a super huge racist. What was that guy's name? I can't remember.
It was
Donald Sterling. There it is. Donald Sterling.
Yeah, Steve Ballmer.
But then again, Dan Quinn had a number of sexual harassment lawsuits and all this different stuff from within the organization. So I don't know. Jay Pinnard says, wow, what's up with the hate for Eckler? He was injured. The offensive line was destroyed by injuries, and Herbert was out 5 games. Do you even know Eckler's running back coach Lynn was his head coach? Yeah. I mean, listen, I definitely think Anthony Lynn was a big part of why they brought in Eckler. And I think that Eckler should be fine as a third down back. But just watching his film last year, yeah, he was injured, but he is getting older too. That's something you have to realize, man, is that these running backs, once they hit a certain age, they just lose the same juice. And that's
a lot of tread on the tires.
A lot of tread on those tires for Austin Eckler, man. He's had a lot of touches. He's taken a lot of hits. He's had injuries. If he comes out and he's the Austin Eckler of 3-4 seasons ago, oh my goodness, we're cooking with gas. All right? And I'm cheering for the guy. I really am. He's a hard worker. He's a good locker room guy. Fits this offensive scheme. But just looking at the history of the running back position and just watching his film last year, right? When they signed him and I looked at that Charger film back from last year, yeah, Herbert was injured for some games. Yeah, the offensive line wasn't fantastic, right? But it looked like he wasn't as explosive. He wasn't getting out of his cuts as fast as he used to. He didn't have the same top line speed, in my opinion. And of course, film study is subjective, so maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm an idiot, and that's definitely a possibility. I'm not claiming to be the ultimate authority on all things Austin Eckler, but just based on my subjective opinion here, based on the numbers declining and how he looked on film last year, I think that he's going to be relegated to a third down back role, receiving back role, and I hope that he fills that role nicely. Yeah. But B-Rob is definitely the best running back on this team right now. And, just like the offensive line, just like the cornerback situation, just like all these things that I criticize this team, right? I hope I'm wrong. But as an objective person that comes on here, and I'm always going to tell you guys my honest opinion, whether it's good or bad for the Commanders, I'm going to tell you what I think. And I think Austin Eckler, he's getting to that age. He lost a step last year. He's dealt with injuries, that could have lingering effects. And I hope I'm wrong, but I think Eckler's probably not going to be as explosive as some Commanders fans maybe hope that he's going to be.
And he almost has had 1,000 career carries. That's a lot.
It's a lot.
He's almost 30, and I feel like running back age is almost like dog years, where you can multiply those by 7. I think you can just add like 3 or 4 to running back age. And then also, I know this is a Commanders live stream, but since we are live, the Los Angeles Lakers have just drafted LeBron James Jr. at number 55.
Of course. Bronny James to the Lakers. I mean, the Lakers are just desperate to keep LeBron in-house, right? They got J.J. Redick. They heard all the rumors of LeBron wanting to leave and, go to a better situation. So they hired one of his friends.
Let's get his co-host and his son.
Yeah, let's go get his best friend in Redick, and let's go get his son. He's not going anywhere. So Lakers fans, hope you enjoy LeBron James because you're going to be seeing Bronny sit in the bench here coming up. Okay, man, that's going to be it for today's show. Thank you to everybody that showed up. Thank you to everybody that submitted questions. You guys are absolutely fantastic. You guys know how much I appreciate your support. Actually, I have a little bit of an announcement here. Next week, Cassie and I are going to Minnesota. I'm going to be visiting some family. So we won't have Commanders Report live next Thursday, just so you guys know, but we will be back the week next. So 2 Thursdays from now, make sure you join us. It's going to be a good time. Make sure you click that subscribe button for more Commanders news and rumors coverage all throughout the 2024 offseason.